instructor got some questions about it.
Yeah, I have some doubts.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious what they come up with.
Hello.
Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Hello again. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us today. Here at Chaising Gold, we believe that the smallest things make the biggest difference for these elite level athletes, and that is why we're building a performance environment unlike any other on the planet. Today with me, I have a team of experts, one of which is a strength and conditioning coach with dozens of years of experience. He's worked with tons of Olympic athletes, and he knows everything there is to know about weather and climate and how it impacts individuals' performances, Mr. Ty Madsen.
As Dr. Lewandowski mentioned, Ty Madsen, head strength conditioning coach here. Here at Flagstaff, we found through research it has an average of 10 degrees Celsius. That's a monthly temperature that we have. The optimal range falls within 10 degrees Celsius and 17 and a half. In Flagstaff, we found that we have 6 months out of the 12 months that fall within our ideal temperature range for our athletes to train in. And this plays a huge role in their performance and how we can progress them to be elite level athletes. Being able to train at Flagstaff allows our athletes to train in the most optimal temperature range and humidity range. This allows us to get the absolute most out of our athletes in the most efficient way. So we talked about Flagstaff having the optimal range of humidity. So what would happen outside of this range of 60%? We would see a handful of physiological responses that would impair the performance in our athletes and our ability to make them elite level athletes. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jared Ziegler. He's one of our physical therapists on staff and specializes in altitude and air quality. He spent numerous of time working with the Andean population.
All right, so now we're gonna check out the elevation. Over here on the left, we have Flagstaff, which is sitting at an elevation of 2,100 meters. And then east of that, just north of the I-40 interstate, is where our training facility will be located. It's about a 350 meter difference between the two. And both of these regions are sitting at the optimal physiological altitude for our athletes to get the best results.
So why not have everything in Flagstaff just for like a convenience sake?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There was a study done on this and it's shown in your handout. It was a group of athletes that trained at an elevation of 2,000 meters and they also lived at the same elevation. They saw some pretty good effects on their VO2 max. It increased compared to athletes who were training at sea level and living at sea level as well. But we're seeing an even greater increase in the athletes that lived at a high elevation of around 2,250 meters, but then trained at an elevation that was about 350 meters below that. So it's that little increase in the high to low that is going to make all the difference between getting third place and getting first place.
So why not live in a lower altitude and train at a higher one? Why are we doing the inverse right now?
Wow, that's a great question. So to answer that, I'll start by saying there's benefits to both training from high to low and from low to high. The biggest difference that we see is when you're living at a higher elevation than you're training at, you're gonna see a greater impact in VO2 max. When you're training at a lower elevation, you're able to train more intensely than if you're living at a little bit lower elevation, but then training at a higher elevation. You'll also see the potential risk of detraining if you're training at a higher elevation. And you could also, you're just also not able to train as intensely at those higher elevations.
Okay, let's be realistic. Where are these places?
That's a great question. I will actually have my business partner, Dr. Amy Kottman, come up and answer that question.
Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Ziegler. So, as you know, the Flagstaff region has that perfect altitude gradient where we can see those physiological adaptations with the body. So when we wanted to find that low site for training, we actually found a perfect plot of land. So this is the potential training site. You can see the address there. This has that altitude of about 1,750 meters. So this is where our athletes are able to do their most optimal training. They're not limited by the altitude, and we're avoiding that detraining aspect of the altitude change. So here's that address. It's right outside the casino, perfect high interstate access. We can get from the training to the living facility really easy. It's excellent accessibility. So here's that potential living site. So we're kind of inside Flagstaff. This is where our athletes will be living. So this has a nice altitude of about 2,100 meters. You can see here the address, and then there's a nice little picture. This is what we'll be looking at in town. And this is where they'll be living, where we can have those physiological adaptations with the increased hemoglobin. We have a better, basically, capacity to carry oxygen within our blood, but we're not going to be limiting, because we're not trying to exercise here. We're not going to be limited by that decreased oxygen content within the air. So like I said, it's super accessible. We can hop to and from our sites, 30-minute drive. It'll be just like, it's super accessible, super optimal training for living and training at this location there. So just to bring this whole concept to life, I'm gonna have my business partner, Andrew Lewandowski, really wrap it up for you. We just wanna bring this idea to life for you guys. So we're just gonna bring some concepts of what these facilities actually might look like.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaufman. So I want you guys to close your eyes and just envision the best training facility you've ever seen. Now open them. That is going to be nothing compared to what our facility is going to have. With our smaller plot of land, we're going to have a insane multi-leveled facility. We're going to have an indoor track that's precisely climate controlled with humidity and temperature. We're going to have millions of pounds of weightlifting equipment. We're going to have hundreds and hundreds of cardiovascular devices, whether it's treadmills, ellipticals, anything that they want, we're going to have. We're going to have an indoor pool. We're going to have recovery rooms so that athletes can get back to working at their peak as soon as possible. We're not done yet. We got to talk about the living facility. Now, these are going to be an apartment style. They're going to be very modern, very new. They're going to have everything that an athlete could ever want. Nice bedroom, perfect bed for recovery, the best that we can have. We're going to have things like recovery rooms throughout every floor, that when athletes, so they're not fatigued when they're coming into work, workout the next day, they're going to be nice and recovered, ready to go. On the first floor, we're going to have tons of dining options with private chefs and registered dietitians that are going to create personalized meal plans for every single athlete so that they can train at their absolute peak and improve to be gold medalists. Now on site, we're also going to have mental health specialists to help our athletes just maintain their overall health, not just their physical, but also mental health. These athletes, they're going to want to live here year round. And there's just going to be that good of a facility. It's going to be nothing like the world has ever seen. I want to thank you guys so much for your time and for listening to this presentation. We hope that you choose to invest in us so that we can invest in those athletes.